Ipsos polling exclusive to Global News shows 82% of Canadians think we should reduce our reliance on trade with China and look to other countries. But only 38% say Canada should completely sever its ties. Canadians favor taking a hard line on the new security law, with 75% of us saying Canada should do more to stand up against the Chinese government and defend the residents of Hong Kong. But Canadians are split on possible repercussions. 49% think Canada needs to be careful not to offend the Chinese government and risk further economic sanctions or political fallout. 51% are not worried. Overall, 62% believe we are striking the right balance between defending our interests and cooperating with China. As for the Prime Minister's performance on the China file, 58% agree Trudeau is doing well, 42% don't.
Well, I think people have been watching the activities of China over the last while, particularly when it comes to issues like trade, not just military issues, not just COVID, but also what's been happening with trade. And they see it's a bit of a tempestuous relationship right now with China, and as a result, they like to see more diversity in our trading partnerships. They understand that this isn't a situation that comes cost-free, that if something happens with our relationship for China, there actually are economic consequences for Canada. So as a result, the idea of completely separating from the largest population in the world, still the country of China, probably strikes Canadians as a bit difficult to do. And actually, when you go through all the numbers, it's really interesting to see how sophisticated Canadians are about their opinions on China. They realize that maybe we are too dependent, but they also realize it's pretty difficult to separate ourselves completely. They want us to stand up for human rights, but by the same token, they don't want us to push too much. So it's a very interesting situation when it comes to Canadian public opinion and trade with China. When you look at Western Canada, in particular, the Prairie provinces and Alberta, they tend to vote more conservative generally. So anything relative to the Trudeau government, they tend to be a bit more negative. But leaving that aside, there are also the places where the biggest impact from having a difficult trading relationship with China, the biggest impact has happened. And that's because they're especially focused on agriculture. And if there's been a place where China has been trying to assert its political will through trade, it has been on agriculture. Because they're watching on the news about what's happening in Hong Kong, and they don't like anti-democratic initiatives by any government, not just China. But it's one of those things where, yes, 75% agree with it, but then you take a look at the need that Canadians feel to make sure that we balance things off. And while the will is, I would say the psychological will to do something is there, the rational part of what the cost of doing that might be, that's when that kicks in. So I think it's a little more complicated than just saying 3/4 of us support doing something about China and Hong Kong. I think overall, the thing that I found really most interesting about this was how sophisticated Canadians are on this issue. They might not know it chapter and verse, but they certainly know that there are consequences to having a negative relationship with China, and that the effort to balance that relationship with China is easier than, or is harder than just saying that you want to do it. So as a result, they look at what the government is doing and they say, you know, in a difficult set of circumstances, at least a passing grade. I mean, it's not a strong support for what the government is doing, but they understand it's harder than just simply standing up and saying that you're opposed to something, that there are consequences.